Hey, this is JC and welcome to Small Brick City, where we want to help you build a LEGO city regardless of the space you have. In a previous couple of videos, I showcased the building and expansion of the Ninjago Docks set. I integrated the LEGO Chinese New Year's Eve dinner set with the Ninjago Docks, and I added 2 stories over here. I've also included the interiors, which is a takeaway diner and a fortune teller's office. Do check out the videos in the description if you do not want to miss that. Overall, I'm really happy with how this expansion has turned out, and I'll show you how it stacks up when placed next to the Ninjago City as well. Some subscribers have mentioned that they feel that the set is a bit imbalanced now. It's too asymmetrical because of the height of this tower. It's now pretty tall and these aren't that tall. In my opinion, the concept of the Ninjago City or the Ninjago Docks, or we'll call them the Ninjago District, is asymmetry. Unlike the expert modular buildings which work on symmetry where everything matches or mirrors each other, the Ninjago District is about asymmetry with different heights and different stacks. I do like the fact that this is pretty high because it stands out and it is quite realistic when you think of a real-life bustling Asian city. You do have very narrow and tall buildings among shorter buildings, and you definitely see these in older cities which are currently under some kind of redevelopment. So in my point of view, I do think this works, especially when you place it with the Ninjago City, which in itself is very asymmetrical. So several people have mentioned that I should raise this middle section and this building as well. The first to do so was 333 Trouble or 333 Trouble, and quite a few other subscribers highlighted this point as well. So taking your feedback and suggestions in consideration, I have expanded both buildings. And here we have the fully expanded Ninjago Docks. I added 1 level above the apartment over here and added a top level above the arcade over on this side. Overall, I think this works really well, and I'm happy I did it because now I've built up this area of my custom LEGO city without increasing the footprint. And that's one technique to always build more and add to your LEGO city if you don't have much space, and that is to build vertically upwards. So adding a total of 4 new levels to the Ninjago Docks really makes it bigger, and it really fits nicely next to the Ninjago City. Honestly, these 2 new levels were not that easy to design and build. In the case of these 2 towers over here, I adapted it from the Chinese New Year's Eve dinner set, so it's easier to take the existing parts and modify them to fit the 2 levels above the original Ninjago Docks. However, for this build over here and the one over here, which are both new, these 2 builds were built completely from scratch. I started with this particular build first, and I had to come up with the right color to fit the overall design scheme and to fit the color palette of the Ninjago Docks. And I think this really works, and I'm happy with those window designs. This particular build over here actually took me more time than the other build. And the reason was I found it hard to come up with a good concept for this particular build. Originally, I was designing a closed up building or floor just like the level below, but it didn't look good and I felt it didn't stand out and wasn't distinctive enough. So I actually took some time to think of a concept that would look and fit the Ninjago Docks, but as a concept, as a standalone building, would also add to the overall diversity of the Ninjago Docks. And that's how I came up with this, which is a garden of tranquility. So it's a rooftop garden with lots of flowers, and it's a great place to meditate, and the design scheme fits the overall Ninjago Docks. Here's a look at the 2 new levels from another angle. For the Garden of Tranquility, I used a lot of window frames in 2 colors, black and brown, to create this Asian look. And I used round bricks in dark brown and square bricks in regular brown to create these columns, which fits the Asian architecture and the look of the Ninjago Docks itself. And as you can see, the original roof does fit the structure and they look like they're designed as one set. For the additional level above the apartment, I wanted to create an organic flow from the ground floor to the second floor. So I made sure that those long brown tile pieces extended to this floor as well. So it's framed up with these long brown tiles just like the bottom. And then it's just a matter of choosing the right colors so that will complement the overall design and still work with the roof, which is of course the original design. And I'm really happy with the windows, the texture of the modified rails, and also those panel pieces with that corrugated design. Let me remove these two levels and let you have a closer look inside. Here's a top view of the Garden of Tranquility stacked on the original arcade level. And the reason I'm showing you this is to show you the access. Basically, you can see an access hole, and there's a ladder which leads directly from the inside of the arcade. There's actually a space there just in front of this window, and the ladder goes against that. And that's how minifigs enter the garden from this arcade. Now let's have a look at the garden itself. It took a long time for me to design this, as I mentioned, and the reason was I couldn't come up with the right concept. And once I started playing around with different parts, and the main thing was I wanted it to look Ninjago or Asian-like, which is very different from the typical expert modeler buildings or the modern city buildings that I generally design. So I had to really think out of the box to create a look that was very Asian, very distinct, and fits the Ninjago Docks. I also wanted a concept that would make sense in the docks. I didn't just want another building to do another, apartment or restaurant or something like that. And that's why I came up with this particular concept. The Garden of Tranquility allowed me to add something that was open so that you can see it from the outside, even without taking anything off. And having a garden really makes sense in such a city layout. So it's really simple. Frames, pillars, and there's a top. The roof actually uses these modified plates, or these are tiles. So modified tiles, and this is the original design that came with the arcade. Let me just pop that back. And I basically used it, and these lights came from the original arcade as well. And there aren't any studs. Unlike a modular building, this just fits in like that. And those parts ensure it doesn't slide off, but it doesn't press onto any studs. And that is with the original design, and that is what I kept as well. And for the bottom, I didn't use modified tiles, but I did use these plates, which is also a technique used in the Ninjago builds, and that sits on top of the arcade. So overall, it is pretty simple. I tiled the inside, added lots of different flowers. These two minifigures are from the Chinese New Year's Eve dinner set, so they fit the look of this garden, and that particular potted plant is also from the same Chinese New Year's Eve set. And here we have the middle building of the Ninjago Docks. This white part is the original build, as with the roof, and I added this middle section. Let me just show you the original apartment itself. I haven't done any changes. Basically, that's the door. There's a sliding door here where you can enter, and you can climb up to this double bunk bed. So what I did was to create an access to the next level by creating a hole in the floor of the next level, and there's a short ladder which meets this ladder, and that ladder can fold up. So you basically can take this ladder and go all the way up to the second floor. But let me show you the concept that I came up with for this top floor. Again, I was racking my brain. I had already designed and built this particular level, but I hadn't thought of the concept. Originally, I was thinking of an attic or a study maybe for the apartment, but then I came up with something better. I decided to go realistic, and I was thinking, what would be realistic in any Asian city? And I came up with a sweatshop. That's right, here we have a bunch of kids crammed up in a really small space, and they are making clothes. Let me just take out the kids so we can have a look. Really tight space. Whoops, his hair came out. He's so stressed, he's losing his hair. We've got a girl over here and another boy over here, and all those machines here are sewing machines, and this is something I designed. Let me just pull one out. That's on a little table over there, and I designed this simple sewing machine, and this is a thread of wool, or I guess a spool of thread rather, in different colors to create all the different t-shirts and apparel that they're making in this sweatshop. What dropped, let me just show you. This is just a railing so that the kids do not fall down back into the apartment. We of course cannot have any of the kids injured. We have to take care of the welfare. That's very important. And here's that ladder I mentioned, so this can hinge down so that you can climb up from the apartment. And it's a bit of a secret area as well. After all, it's a sweatshop, so it can't be in the open, so you have to get up in a difficult fashion. But that's interior for this extension. For the sake of completeness, I'll give you a quick overview of all the interiors I did for the new levels. This is the Garden of Tranquility, and actually just made a change. I removed the ladder from the bottom of this floor and I added it directly to the arcade. So I built it into the wall. This makes much more sense, so minifigs can climb up and they can grab that top rung over here. In this case, I don't have the ladder hanging out from underneath this build, which makes more sense. Over here we have the Sweatshop, which you saw earlier. This is the Chinese takeout from the original expansion. Open the door so you can have a look inside. There's a kitchen with a chef hard at work, a tap, stove, a pot of soup, some dumplings, and the takeout boxes. And over here with all the food that has been prepared on shelves. And you can order your takeout from over here. And there's also a balcony. Now this doesn't lead to the Ninjago City because there's no level of the Ninjago City that leads directly there, so there's a nice barrier. And finally, we have the top floor of my original expansion, and this is the fortune teller's office. We have the fortune teller serving a client and a bit of decoration all around his small office. Here we have a look at the newly expanded Ninjago Docks with the Ninjago City. This is how the display will be set up in my custom LEGO City, and this is the back view. I will show you the front view in just a bit, and I'll also show you the other configuration where the Ninjago City is on the other side. But I think this works really well. Look at the stack over here with the extended build. It looks really like it's almost connected to this part of the Ninjago City. So that works really well in my opinion. And overall, together, it really makes the docks look much taller, and this entire district looks much more imposing and interesting. Some other changes I made to the Ninjago Docks and Ninjago City is the expansion of this pier dock over here. So I tiled the area behind the wooden dock, so it's now got a concrete area, and I put a small noodle store there. It just gives more space to add minifigs and more display and play area. I also increased the height of the crane, and that's because in my setup I have the Destiny's Bounty set right in front of the pier over here, and as you know, the Destiny's Bounty is really tall, so the crane has to be taller in order to put goods onto the deck. And for the Ninjago City itself, a really minor change, but I added a bridge because I realized there's no real way for a minifig to get to the lift unless they swim across the water or walk across the water. And here's a look at the setup from the front. What I like about this setup is that with the expanded Ninjago Docks and the Garden of Tranquility, it really fits because there's the cherry blossoms on the Ninjago City right next to it. And this isolated tower over here, personally, I have no problem with the asymmetry as I mentioned before, and I think it kind of complements the tall Ninjago City from this side, because with the original set, you know that with the docks next to it, it looks really short compared to the Ninjago City. In this case, this district looks more balanced as a whole in my opinion. Here's the front view of the alternate display where the Ninjago City is on the other side. And this also works, it just doesn't fit the configuration of my custom LEGO City. But in this case, the newly expanded tall tower for the docks over here fits very well with the Ninjago City. You can see the continuity of the levels, and this balcony which I created for the takeout diner, that doesn't have any extension, and that's why there's a barricade over there. And the Garden of Tranquility still works as a standalone on the end. And finally, here's an angled back view of the alternate setup. That area really looks busy with the tall stacks, and of course the docks always looks good from this part over here as well. I like how the new tall ladder of the Ninjago Docks mirrors that tall elevator of the Ninjago City. So there's some symmetry over there, and it's always good, especially when you have complementary sets like that, to be able to design something which complements each other and still retains the essence of the original build. I hope you enjoyed this look at my fully expanded Ninjago Docks with the Ninjago City. Which of the newly expanded levels do you like the most? The Fortune Teller's Office, the Takeout Diner, Garden of Tranquility, or the Sweatshop? Let me know in the comments below, and do let me know if you have any feedback or comments. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching, and check out these two videos before you go.